Yo, 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 yo. What's good with it, man? It's the homie Mac, music, art, culture, knowledge, reporting live from the Dogon. Each one teach one, each one teach one. The Dogon, the Dogon, the Dogon. Each one teach one. Peace and love to all. Subscribe to the YouTube channel 82 Kings. If you keep coming here, I'm doing something you like, so you might as well subscribe. Hit that like button. I need them likes. I need the algorithm to feel me, man. But yeah, hope everybody's well. This is another session of Mackin' with Mac book review series. Today the book we will be reviewing is more like a pamphlet, but its influence is very prodigious. It's literally impacted the world's culture. It centered the world's culture in a lot of ways. You know, the ideas from this book, or pamphlet, but it's still a book, a small book, I guess. The Communist Manifesto. The Communist Manifesto. Written by none other than Friedrich Engels and Karl Marx. This was a great read, honestly. Being by and large a student of the politics of the Black Panther Party, this book has given me a reference for a lot of the economic and political ideals that the Black Panther Party had. I mean, by and large, you could say the Black Panthers were Marxist / Leninists in a lot of ways. But yeah, this book, it starts off essentially saying all history is class struggle. You know, and if you think about it, let me find a quote in the book. But if you think about it, I mean, it's true. It's always a dichotomy of the haves and the have-nots. Those who are in control. But before I go there, I'll just read it. The history of all hitherto existing society is the history of class struggles. Freeman and slave, patrician and plebeian, lord and serf, guild master and journeyman. In a word, oppressor and oppressed. Stood in constant opposition to one another. Carried on an uninterrupted, now hidden, now open fight. A fight that each time ended either in a revolutionary reconstruction of society at large or in the common ruin of the contending classes. I do want to give context. This book was written, I want to say, like in 1847. Prior to the configuration of this book, Marx and Engels had actually went through a tour of London, where they looked at the living conditions of the working class. They looked at the conditions of the factories that they worked in. It was real crappy. There was a lot of poverty. A lot of things were unkempt. A lot of things were not sanitary. This book was not necessarily theory. This book goes beyond theory. I mean, it does have aspects of theory in it. But more or less, this book was an analysis of the social conditions that existed. Specifically, I think Marx coined the phrase historical materialism, where essentially society goes through these different phases, and there's these different social phenomenons that exist. And these phenomenons, they create cultures, and it shows how, society goes from one condition to another. Historical materialism. The thing about this book, a lot of times I always perceived Marx to be, if you have money, you're evil, you're bad. If you're poor, you're righteous and noble. It wasn't even about that. I really feel like Marx essentially was saying how no one should starve. No one should go without. No one should live in just perpetual indigence. No one should live in indigency. No one should be indigent. Everybody, like, there's enough. Essentially, he was saying, there's enough capital produced so much capital is reduced. We have so many resources. For the first time in human history, and this is like around 19th century, we have a surplus. We are producing so much that there is a surplus. And a lot of the people, the bourgeoisie, or who we would call contextualized as the owners of the means of who are the owners of the means of production, who essentially create the scale for the wages of wage labor. Their main thing is to see profit return, but the thing is, the wages that they're paying aren't the wages that they're paying out are usually just enough to keep people alive, like a little bit of sustenance, enough to keep them alive, but not enough to the point where they can live and thrive. And the thing is, they could live and thrive, but the surplus is hoarded to the benefit of the bourgeoisie. One of the things about this book, it elucidated different classes: the bourgeoisie, proletariat, lumpen proletariat. Okay, we know what the bourgeoisie is. What's the proletariat? The proletariat essentially is the working class, the poor. And then you have the lumpen proletariat, which pretty much is the social caste that they are. And I don't mean this I don't mean to sound disrespectful to me, but they are the group of people who essentially are squandering in poverty and are so caught up in their poverty that they can't see anything beyond it because they're so stuck in it. They're so solidified in their poverty. And the thing about it is, I felt like Marx is essentially saying, again, there's enough for everybody to be okay. We're producing enough. We're producing so much that there's a surplus, and that a lot of the owners of the means of production, they should do better by their workers. They should do better by their workers, in context of the living conditions, not necessarily the living conditions, but more so the working conditions. One of the things that I thought was really interesting about this book was he in his philosophy he essentially was saying, like, look, we shouldn't deal in these extremes where you have these classes within society where some people are like really doing well, and then you have some people who have nothing. Shouldn't be like that. And the thing is, I'm going to bring this to a current context. You have a lot of people now who are living in America who are very they're anti-communism, they're anti-socialism, blah, blah, blah. And my thing is, these same people are talking about how they want their stimulus checks. They want the government to look out for them so they can take care of their well-being. My thing is, that's socialism. So I just feel like we shouldn't look at people as just commodities and things that can be controlled and regulated and manipulated. We need to look at these people as people who have thoughts and feelings and families and things and whatnot. But I think one of the things that's really interesting about this book is Marx has a term called commodity fetishism, where he just says society reaches this impasse where they're just so stuck on materialism and stuck on money, where they don't even look at people as people. They look at people as just opportunity. What material gain can I get from this person? So it's not even about organic friendships, organic relationships, whether they be interpersonal or romantic, what have you. It puts us in this frame of mind where it's just money, tangibles, materialism. What can I get from you? And that's a sad space because I feel like it alienates humanity from humanity, humans from humans. Personally, and just in greater society. In his book, he also speaks about how being a worker, being a part of a working caste and working in a factory, because he speaks of technology and how capitalism has created new modes of the means of production. I guess in essence being the assembly line. And he was just saying how these workers, they become alienated from themselves. You know, they spend so much time working, they don't think about deeper, high-minded thoughts. Um, they become alienated from themselves in the sense of they don't even know what their true gifts are because they're so stuck on working. And one of the things that I thought, and that's scary. And one of the things I realized in this book, Marx talks about how I had it on the tip of my tongue. It'll come back. Marx talks about how workers get to a point where they don't even acknowledge their own humanity, and how that reverberates through society, and how, you know, again, with the interpersonal relationships, it's not about love. It's about what can I get. It's not about organic friendships. It's about what can you do for me? What can I get from you? Everything is centered around capital. So it's almost like the essence of humanity, like we get robbed from that because we're all in a constant pursuit of capital. I don't know about y'all, but I want to have organic friendships, people that know and love me for me, want to be around me because they genuinely like me, and it's not like this parasitic dynamic. I can understand, you know, wanting to have friends that you can build with. That's cool. But, you know, I should be your friend first. It shouldn't be just about what you can get from me. Another interesting dynamic that I got from this book is he talks about, Marx and Engels talk about how essentially the lumpen proletariat and the proletariat, they sell their labor. They sell their labor. And how, you know, with the surplus and the amount of capital that's abundant, the bourgeoisie could pay them a livable wage, but it's a better business move to keep their wages low so they can see a greater return, them being the bourgeoisie and the profits. And that's sad because that slavery is a word that's thrown around really indiscriminately. But I mean, when you get to the point where you just wake up every morning and your flesh, your body is nothing but a means to an end for another's capital or another's profit return, that's scary and that's sad. It shouldn't be like that. I mean, essentially in this book he also talks about how everything boils down to property, and how, again, the whole dynamic of humans being alienated from their own humanity. It's not even about people. It's all about capital. It's all about ownership. It's all about control. It's all about a power dynamic. And then I thought it was interesting how he you know, in this book, he pretty much just talks about how there's going to be a reckoning where there will be a violent, bloody overhaul where the proletariat will get the proletariat and the lumpen proletariat, they will get so tired of living in squalor or making just enough, barely getting by. They're going to get tired of it, and there will be a violent revolution where they will try to overthrow the bourgeoisie. My contention against that is I don't even know if that will happen because there's so much escapism that comes into play with being a proletariat. You just want to, and I feel like the bourgeoisie, they know how to subdue the proletariat. So I'm not sure that would ever happen. I'm just hoping that the people who are, I don't know, Marx may be rolling over in his grave hearing this, but I'm hoping that the people who are the bourgeoisie, they develop a stronger sense of humanity and understand that their greed is eventually going to cut their own legs from up underneath them. So we need to treat people like humans. We need to pay people a livable wage. You know, one of the things that Marx said in the Communist Manifesto, Engels as well, is that essentially capitalism is going to come to a head, where it's going to cut itself from under itself. And I guess with greed and things like that, I can see how that could potentially happen. But yeah, my thing is I don't consider myself a communist, nor a socialist. I understand the nature. Oh, one other thing. one of the things that he pointed out in this book was just how when you're dealing with the capitalist infrastructure, everybody's in competition with one another. It's like it's almost like a gladiator pit centered around economics. And I see how that can be problematic. I can understand in theory why we should have a classless society. Why the fruits of the labor, why the surplus should be given to the people. Why things should be nationalized. I understand why private property can be looked at as something bad when you're dealing with people who are greedy. I understand that. But I guess my thing is what makes me the thing about communism is communism itself does not create a classless society. To me, if anything, it creates an even wider depth. There's a wider gap. The distinction between haves and have-nots is even wider, and it's usually centered around one person or a couple of individuals. And I think, if you look at throughout history, communist factions, communist governments, for the most part, they've always had a dictatorship, and they have not ran smoothly. You've had millions of people who have been murdered, and under the construct of communism. But there are a lot of critiques about capitalism, a lot of things that could be changed. But I like the theory of everybody having enough and being able to survive. Marx, Engels, this is like Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan in philosophy. What can I say? I think Marx had a lot of brilliant ideas. I think his heart was in the right place. But I guess the thing is, anytime you're dealing with people, something is bound to become flawed. Something is bound to become manipulated or just used in a faulty manner. But I recommend everybody read this. I think it gives you a good economic scope, a good social economic scope. I think every sociology student should read it. I'm glad I've read it.